Dave Brennan joins me now in the studio, and well, kia ora, very good morning to you. Morena, Dave.
Morena, John, I'm here.
Love to have you along, mate. Lovely to have you along. Dave Brennan, everybody, is synonymous with the establishment of Kōtane, the Maori cultural experience at Willowbank Wildlife Reserve, very much a North Cantabrian though. Dave, tell us a little bit about your family history. Big family, the Brennan family.
I don't know if I'm synonymous, but probably anonymous. Yeah, look, I come from a family of 6 siblings. My sister has, I have five brothers and 1 sister, and my sister thinks she's got 6 brothers. And my mum and dad, my mum comes from Tuhiwi, and they, back in the early 50s, a collection of families got together with, this is a very, very quick summary, with a tohunga in those days, a man of lots of knowledge called Te Ari Pitama, and they formed a whānau group, did kapahaka, did cultural revitalisations, went out to the schools and promoted culture. Then they went around the country to visit other tribes, and on their way up there they brought back husbands from the North Island, and my dad was one of those husbands that met my mum early in the early 1950s, and they stayed under Te Ari Taua Pitama's guidance until he passed away. And we were never allowed to forget who this man was, because he had a major impact behind the scenes of everything that we see today, as many of those men did. Not just him, but lots of them did. But he was really quite active, particularly in that knowledge, performing arts. And my dad and the Manihira family and the Pitama family, and I really don't want to keep going on because I might miss people out. We're all, the Bennetts, the Crofts. You can't stop, can you? And we're still second generation, closely knitted today. And our home is Tuhiwi, the Tau family, obviously. They produce the chiefs, which is the Kihia, and then Te Maire. So, and we all look at each other as relations, and we all get on like we usually do. But the marae basically is for me, it's the memories and the attachment that I have. And put it into context, I worked in London for a few years, and I was working in a place in Walthamstow, and I was working with guys in a factory called Hawker Siddeley. I was in my trade then, and I was talking to guys that, Walthamstow was basically their marae, their hapu. Most of those guys hadn't walked out of that neighbourhood since World War II. They hadn't gone into London. I talked to them about London. They didn't know what I was talking about. I said, what? And they thought, we haven't been, we've stayed here, and our kids have gone out, and it's kind of what it's like here, but in a different sense. Like, I was born in Kaipo, we brought up in the 5 Crossroads, and when we were quite young, we were moved into town. But it never broke the bond, because we travelled backwards and forwards regularly. And that's the part that, that history. And what I miss most of all of those lovely people who I can still hear in my mind, I don't see anymore.
Yeah. Interesting stuff, Dave. So Tuahiwi, that's kind of the centre of your world in a way, isn't it?
It's the centre of everyone in Tuahiwi's world. Ultimately, it was where everybody stopped when they left South Island, of Te Waipounamu, and it was where everyone stopped when they came into the island. And I remember it clearly. They'd all gather in hui, and in those days people turned up for the occasion, not for any other reason but for the occasion, and everybody had roles, and they still do today, and that's what's carrying on. That's what I like about it. You know what your role is on the marae, and there's it's varying now. There's more roles because we've grown, and there's a lot more that we have to deal with in society, and of course that requires different sets of skills, and the marae is developing those skills as we move forward.
Yep. Excuse my ignorance, but you are Ngai Tahu. Yep. But Tuahiwi is there a sub tribe?
Okay. Yeah. So Ngai Tuahuriri is one of the 18 that make up Ngai Tahu iwi. So everybody is Ngai Tahu, but they belong to their hapu. Okay, and there's another story behind that, which is quite long, but just for now, we're a sub-tribe of the ancestor Tahu Pōtiki.
Okay. I've got
Senior.
Senior. Shortly, I'm going to break this up into two segments. We'll play a bit of music, and then I want to come back and ask you about Maori cultural tourism, the past, the present, the future. I know there's some really exciting stuff coming. You're a battler, Dave Brennan. You've never given up. I've been watching you over the years, the earthquakes, now this blimmin' COVID. But just a couple of quick questions. I'm curious about this guy, Te Rauparaha. Can you tell us a bit about him and the effect that he had on Ngāi Tahu, and still perhaps does to this day?
Yeah, interesting. I term it much like many of the great conquerors, Napoleon, Nelson, all those guys that went out and conquered, and he's no different. What the major impact that he brought down here was the scale of war that he brought in terms of technology, muskets, and it was just unbeatable. It obviously it built his mana, and he grew on the back of that technology. If that technology had gone to anyone else around these regions, the whole South Island invasion probably wouldn't have happened. But there are only 2 or 3 muskets in the South Island. This guy came down with a handful. War changed. It was pretty much like the atom bomb changing the way war was, the way submarines trade. This changed Māori war, because in the old days, battles were fought. They broke up, they fought, they broke up, and they went away for the winter, patched up their wounds, and then came back again. So it was constant, but this whole firearms race, it just changed the whole game.
Yeah. And then, of course, Pākehā arrived. I was speaking to you on the phone the other day. You said to me on the phone, Ngāi Tahu have always had a good relationship with Pākehā.
I think so. And I still think that's true. It's probably with the establishment in terms of government, councils, where we're finding it hard. I think we're working together now. I'm not a historian or a politician, but I'm certainly a great observer. And for what I'm seeing right now, there's a long way to go, but we're in the process of getting to understand each other a lot better.
Cool. Dave Brennan, everybody, my guest this hour. We'll have more from Dave shortly.